The year was 1907, and it was a year of panic. The Panic of 1907 was a 6-week stretch of runs on banks in New York City and other American cities in October and early November of 1907. The panic was triggered by a failed speculation that caused the bankruptcy of 2 brokerage firms. But the shock that set in motion the events to create the panic was the earthquake in San Francisco in 1906. The devastation of that city drew gold out of the world's major money centers. This created a liquidity crunch that created a recession starting in June of 1907. Also in that same year, the introduction of a new revolver by Colt took place. The Colt Police Positive was a small frame, double-action revolver featuring a 6-round cylinder, chambered for either .32 or .38 caliber. Designed primarily for sale to federal, state, or local law enforcement agencies, the Police Positive was actually introduced into the firearms market by Colt's Manufacturing Company in 1905. The Colt Police Positive was an improvement of Colt's earlier new police revolver, upgraded with an internal hammer block safety. Colt named this new security device the Positive Lock, and its nomenclature ended up being incorporated as a partial namesake for the new revolver. The Colt Police Positive was eventually replaced with the Colt Police Positive Special. The Police Positive Special was an improvement of the Colt's earlier Police Positive model, with the only differences being a slightly lengthened cylinder and elongated and strengthened frame to allow the chambering of the longer, more powerful .38 Special cartridges of the time. This is the story of but one Colt Police Positive Special revolver that, by serial number search, was manufactured in 1936. So, stay tuned, because I'm going to tell you all about it. Constructed on the medium-sized D-frame, the Colt Police Positive was seen as suitable for both holster and concealed carry. The positive in the name refers to the Colt Positive Lock hammer block safety, which interposes a steel bar between the hammer and the frame that prevents the hammer from going completely forward unless the trigger is pulled through a complete stroke. The competing Smith & Wesson M&P revolver was smaller and lighter than the Colt's revolver, and so Colt responded with the Police Positive Special, which used a medium frame mated to a cylinder lengthened 1/4 of an inch in order to handle the longer .38 S&W Special cartridge, also known as the .38 Colt Special. Available with 4, 5, and 6-inch barrels, Police Positive Special was of compact dimensions and of moderate weight, and it was an immediate hit with American police. It was adopted by many agencies, as it was thought to be the perfect size for both uniformed and plainclothes officers, even when fitted with the 4-inch barrel. According to a 1916 Colt publication, St. Louis, Kansas City, Cincinnati, Columbus, and Chicago police departments all approved the Police Positive Special revolver as their issue sidearm. It was especially popular with Canadian and Latin American police forces, and was used by the Ontario Provincial Police well into the 1980s. As you can tell with this example, acquired from my son-in-law's collection, and considering its age, the natural finish of the revolver has held up well. The top of the frame exhibits a narrow sighting channel that is bordered on each side by fine serrations to cut glare. The front sight blade sits high and proud atop the 4-inch tapered pencil barrel that states the model, Police Positive, and caliber, .38 Special, on the left side. The barrel to forcing cone gap, the flash gap, measured in at 0.02 of an inch, with the cylinder having a slight side-to-side play that is well within the norm, and just barely detectable end-to-end play. Under full lockup, with the trigger held to the rear, however, there is absolutely no cylinder play in any direction. The cylinder release is typical Colt. Pull to the rear unit to unlock the cylinder that exits the frame from the left side. Cylinder rotation to the right is also typical Colt, while pulling the highly curved, checkered, and rounded trigger. The trigger is very smooth when pulling in double action mode with a progressive amount of stacking and virtually no staging point. The trigger pull measured average in double action mode is 8 pounds, 13.8 ounces. Pulling the rather small and checkered spurred hammer with its floating firing pin to the rear to place it in single action mode produces a measured trigger pull average of a very light and responsive 1 pound, 14.8 ounces. Now, between the hammer and the frame, you can see the positive hammer block. When the trigger is pulled and held to the rear, the hammer block remains in a lowered position, which allows the firing pin to strike a cartridge's primer. If, however, the trigger is pulled but then quickly released, the hammer block moves upward as the hammer falls forward to block the hammer's travel from hitting the frame, thus preventing the firing pin from reaching a primer of a cartridge. Despite its age, this revolver exhibits a very tight lockup and operation. Note that unlike some early Smith & Wesson revolvers that have a flat at the bottom of the forcing cone to allow the cylinder crane to enter the revolver, this model's forcing cone is completely round to provide as much strength as possible to the forcing cone for protecting against forces of a fired cartridge. Getting rid of shell casings is left to the exposed and unprotected ejector rod that seems to have enough length for expended shells to vacate the firearm with the help from a prominent extractor star. The original wood grips have been replaced with a Packmeyer presentation style grip that enhances the hand's hold on the revolver while contributing to the reduction of some felt recoil. The revolver feels very solid in the hand with this grip. What effect will that have on shooting? Well, we'll see about that at the range. And that is where I'm heading to next. With MagTech 158 grain FMJ flat nose and PMC 132 grain FMJ on hand, I am hoping that Colt Police Positive Special and I can demonstrate our capabilities. From a cold barrel first shot ever in my hands, I am sure that we both will warm up to each other and provide a good shooting experience for you to witness. So, let me get things a-going. Well, you saw it for yourself. Two major happenings that could send this Colt Police Positive Special to the shop for a serious look-see by a professional gunsmith or shipped off to Colt customer service. The first, but somewhat minor issue, was failure to fire at times. Light primer strikes can cause this, as can hard primers. It seemed that failures to fire were more predominant with the hand-loaded ammunition being used, but did happen with factory ammunition. Failures to fire could also come down to the action being out of factory specifications. There seemed to be much less failures to fire when shooting in single action mode over double action mode. And that brings me to the main issue the revolver was having: failure to lock up. As you witnessed, this occurred on many occasions during the session. Rather than voicing possible causes, I am simply going to display them, which allows you to read them, and then I'll move on to the remaining items in the synopsis that I wish to present. In the past, the Colt Police Positive Special proved to be a practical enough revolver for its time, and even in today's time, still could be considered as such. It's lightweight made and makes it a pleasure to carry for extended periods of time, and the sights were above average for a handgun of that day, and could be even in this day. Unfortunately, these features were counterbalanced to a degree by poorly designed grips. Fortunately, decades of better designed and more ergonomic grips have been a great amount of improvement over earlier designs. This Colt Police Positive Special has been an absolute joy to review, and I am sad to say that I have reached the end of this review. I sincerely hope that you will join me later for more firearm and gear reviews. Just don't stop here. Continue searching the channel for my other reviews. You may run across one that may interest you. Until we meet again, and I sincerely hope that we will, because I do enjoy your being with me. Stay vigilant, stay armed, and stay safe out there.